Well, I know that you've been waiting on it, and I know that I've been waiting for it. The new SJCAM, the SJ8 Pro. That's right, SJ8 Pro. That's coming right up. Alright, I'm going to do a quick little unboxing of the SJ8 Pro from SJCAM. Just some of the basic stuff. It comes with a waterproof case that is good for 30 meters or just about close to 100 feet. Very nice build on the waterproof case, I must say. Now the camera feels very nice. It is a rubberized plastic feel to it and feels nice in your hands. It's got a USB Type-C, which is very nice. Recorder 20 screw on the bottom. Then you've got your battery drawer, which also holds your SD card slot is in the bottom, and the battery that comes with this is a 1200 milliamp per hour battery, so it should give you about an hour and a half's worth of use. These are all the accessories that came with the SJ8 Pro. I will say that the touch screen on this is just amazing. I mean, the user interface for SJCAM, they have done a very good job with the user interface on this one. And its touch sensitivity is very nice. You've got all of these embedded items in the menu. You can see a little example of the gyro in action right there. And it's supposed to be the best gyro that SJCAM has been able to offer, and we're going to put that to the test. So let's talk about some of the things. USB Type-C on the left-hand side of the camera. On the back, you've got a 2.33-inch touchscreen display. Right-hand side, you've got your power button. Shutter button is up on top. Now this uses a 12 megapixel Sony IMX377 sensor, 170 degree wide angle lens on this camera, 6-axis gyro stabilization, a Ambarella H22 chipset, which is a great chipset, and a 0.96 of an inch OLED front display. And now let's talk about some of the resolutions. You got 4K, 2.7, 2.5K, 1080, and 720. And these are all of their respective frame rates that you can see that this camera offers. Very nice. All right, SJCAM, the SJ8 Pro, 4K, 30 frames a second. Has electronic image stabilization. It is using the Ambarella H22 chipset. Right now I've got the color on SJCAM color instead of flat. Let's take a look at the clouds. I can tell you that the image on the back of the screen looks to be accurate from what I'm seeing in front of me. Magnolia tree. Now this is sporting a 6-axis gyro, and this is just handheld. If you see my shadow right there, it's holding the camera in my hand. Now the sun is really starting to come out. It is about 101 degrees outside. And my poor pool, I've been going through water like crazy because it's evaporating. Now we're shooting 4K. 60 frames a second. Now there's no stabilization at 60 frames a second, but I'm just hand holding this. I'll stick it in a gimbal for some later testing with 60 frames a second, but see how the bit rate is. We'll see if there's any pixelation going on when I'm moving the camera around. The image on the back of the screen looks really, really nice. Now 2.7K, 60 frames per second. Now we're at 1080p, 60 frames per second. Still offers image stabilization. Like I said before, this is strictly handheld. It's a little bit windy right now today, so well, the pool looks so inviting. We're going to dump this camera into the pool here in a little while and see if we can get some pool shots with it, how well it does underwater. I'm back to 4K, 30 frames a second. Electronic image stabilization is on. Now we're going to try it out in the pool. Alright, going to do a quick little audio test. Now this camera does have 2 microphones on it, so it records in stereo. So quick little audio test, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5. And also, just to kind of elaborate, some of the earlier clips where the audio was really just overpowering and actually starting to crackle a little bit was because I didn't really notice in the menu system that the microphone volume, how high that it was set. It's on a slide rule, and I'll show a little video of that, but it was actually all the way up. So the volume of the microphones can go very, very, very loud, obviously, but I turned it down to about 80-ish% on the slide rule just so that it could get very good audio, but without clipping so much. But anyway, the audio is really good on this camera. Now 4K, 30 frames per second, indoor, so you can get a little idea of indoor lighting. And then we'll go into a dark room. And it actually lightens it up pretty nicely. There's a lot of noise that I can see on the back screen over here, but that's to be expected. These action cameras are not meant for low light situations, and I don't care what anybody says, given the size of the image sensor. You know, action cameras are meant for outdoor activities, out in well lit daytime, as opposed to doing stuff at night. So it looks good. I think I need to fire me up a cup of coffee. Alright, going to test out the gyro stabilization on the SJ8 Pro. It has a 6-axis gyro stabilization system. Yes, it is very, very cloudy in Texas today. But just hand holding this, going to go for a little walk. I'm not trying to walk smooth, I'm just taking normal steps. Like I said, this is just handheld. A couple little birds right there. From the back of the screen, the stabilization looks excellent. Alright, shooting 4K, 60 frames a second. I'm using the Feiyutech G4 QD gimbal for stabilization. Tilt this down a little bit. Just to show you what you can get at 4K 4K 60 frames a second if you use a handheld gimbal. Now let's take a look at some photos out of the SJ8 Pro. This is in 12 megapixel settings, so you can get a little rough idea. By the way, no color correction, touch-ups, or anything that have been done on the photos or any of the video clips. So, in the conclusion of my first look at the SJCAM SJ8 Pro, what are my thoughts about this camera? I think that this is the best camera that SJCAM has come out with. And up until then, it was the SJ7 Star that I thought was top dog. You know, I still have an affinity for the 5000X Elite because I think it's still a great all-around camera. But for the SJ8 Pro, with the Ambarella H22 chipset, I think the stabilization is fantastic on this camera. 6-axis gyro instead of a 3-axis gyro, and it really shows. Its build quality is nice. I like the fact that I can turn off all the lights on it. I can turn off the front display. You know, and here's something that SJCAM does that I really do appreciate. They offer and always include that little lens cap cover, and it fits on there nice and snug, so it shouldn't just fall off, but it's another security measure to keep you from accidentally scratching the glass on it. I love the fact that it has a 1/4-20 tripod scooter on the bottom. I think the 1200 milliampere hour battery is sufficient when you start turning off a lot of stuff that's not required, like the front OLED screen is not required. You can turn off the back screen, although I like keeping the back screen on just for the sake of being able to frame my shots. I think that the 4K, the image quality is great, considering that it's recording at 65 megabits per second, 4K at 30, and then when you bump it up to 4K 60 frames a second, it's recording at 100 megabits per second, which is really gathering a lot of good information. I think the photo quality was excellent. So far, my first look at the SJ8 Pro, it's great all around. I love the audio quality coming from the stereo microphones. I've had absolutely zero, and when I say zero, I mean zero issues with this camera. I've seen a couple people post where, you know, the audio was very weak, and I don't know if they understand about the little volume control, that it's actually controlling the microphones for the camera, and maybe they just turned the volume down thinking that it will turn down the beeping noise whenever you're going through menu settings. But the stabilization is great. It also records in H.265 in a lot of scenarios, and it does not give you the option to change to 0.264. It does it 0.265 on its own. And I think some of the other issues that I've seen some other reviewers have is the fact that they don't have a computer that's capable of handling that codec or handling the 4K recording at 100 megabits per second. So that's going to be some of the issues. But my first look, my first thoughts on the SJ8 Pro, yeah, I think that this is the camera that GoPro is going to have to worry about. It feels sturdy, its build quality has been great. Like I said, I've had absolutely no issues with this camera, and I feel so confident in saying that it may be the GoPro killer, because I'm going to pit this against my GoPro Hero 6 4K 30 frames a second with electronic image stabilization, and then 4K 60 frames a second, and see how that turns out. But so far I am super impressed with this camera. My first look is definitely 2 thumbs up. I think SJCAM, now I know why SJCAM has waited about 8 months before releasing this camera. I think they wanted to make sure that they had everything set right, all their ducks in a row, so to speak. So With saying that, I want to thank you very much for watching this video. Tell me in the comment section below what you think about the SJ8 Pro. Does it live up? In my opinion, it definitely lives up to it, and it is worth it. It is definitely worth it. It is still almost half the price of a GoPro Hero 6, and I'm really digging it. And as always, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and be sure to share it. And also, if you have a question, comment below because I respond to all comments. And if you're not a subscriber, be sure to subscribe today and click on the bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a video.